Story 1. I 33 am feel like I'm losing my mind from the things my wife F33 does and thinks nothing of. Today, I took our 6-year-old daughter to the park down the street. She often plays with two boys there, and we're familiar with their parents. As usual, I sat on a nearby bench and chatted for a few minutes with one of the boys' moms, something I've done a handful of times before. Later, my daughter hopped on the circular swing with one of the boys and called over to me, "Stop talking to your girlfriend and come push me." It caught me off guard. I told her, "That's boy's name? It's mom. Don't be weird." I laughed it off and pushed the kids. We came home, and when my wife got in from work, I told her the story, thinking it was just a silly, awkward moment. Instead of laughing it off, she instantly went on the offensive. "Oh, so you have a girlfriend around the corner now? Maybe that's why you like going to the park so much." These kinds of jabs are, unfortunately, nothing new, and they do get under my skin. Later, I went to shower. While I was in there, my daughter apparently told my wife that I was holding hands with the other mom and that we looked like we were in love. Completely false. She's 6 years old and clearly made that up, but obviously with no malicious intent. She's just a kid. When I came out of the shower, my wife was sitting on the bed, waiting for me. She said, "Can I ask you something?" I said yes, and she asked, "Were you holding her hand?" I told her no. Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. I had a 5-minute conversation with the woman. That's it. But my wife didn't back down. She said she believed our daughter. At that point, I was done. I told her she could go to the woman's house and ask her directly. Because seriously, what the hell? That's the moment it hit me. This doesn't feel like a partnership anymore. It feels like I'm constantly under suspicion. Like I'm always defending myself against things I didn't do. And frankly, I'm exhausted. Background context. To clarify, I told my wife immediately that nothing inappropriate happened. My wife has always struggled with insecurity, but over 13 years together, it's gotten aggressive and draining. I have never cheated. I don't even have female friends. I work in construction and mentioned a woman in a work-related story once. Immediately, she asked if I thought the woman was attractive or if I liked her. That's what I'm dealing with regularly. This stuff chips away at you. I've spent years trying to reassure her, be patient, and prove my loyalty. But I'm out of bandwidth, out of empathy, out of patience. What really bothers me here is that some people say, "Of course she believes your daughter." And yes, I get that, at face value. But when I calmly and clearly tell her that what our daughter said didn't happen, and she still chooses to accuse me, that's a problem. Also, just to be clear, this is not a daily occurrence. I haven't even seen this woman in over a month. We haven't been to the park in weeks. I don't go there to socialize. I go because my daughter loves to play and be outside. Comment 1. At any point, didn't you stop to think why is your daughter is doing what she is doing? To me, this is so much more important than whatever's going on with your wife. Comment 2. You need to address with your daughter the consequences of lying sooner than later. She's old enough to know better. Also, along the same lines, she repeats what she hears/sees, so check yourself and your wife. Comment 3. Your daughter is lying, and you're nonchalant about it because of her age. You need to find out what's going on because something isn't right here. Your wife has every right to be suspicious. Her 6-year-old is lying and making up stories that make you look like you're having an affair. Why would she think she's capable of making up things like this? I think you guys need to get professional help. Your daughter is lying. Your wife doesn't trust you. You're clearly frustrated with not being trusted. Get help and fix this before you end up getting divorced. Story 2. I, 27F, was sick and couldn't care for myself, and my partner, 29M, chose not to come home. How do I move forward in the relationship after this? I, 27F, have been really sick, fever, no energy, no appetite, completely exhausted. I could barely get out of bed, let alone make food or take care of myself. I was home alone, clearly unwell, and just completely drained. My partner, 29M, who's been with me for 12 years, had the day off. That morning, he found out he failed an exam. I get that it was upsetting, of course it was, but the exam is something he can retake. Still, instead of coming home to check on me or even asking how I was doing, he disappeared. He needed space to process, so he just stayed away. No check-in, no message, nothing. Meanwhile, I was shivering in bed, unable to cook or function, and feeling completely unsupported. I had to reach out and explain what I needed. Not once, but multiple times because I hadn't clearly spelled it out at first. But even after that, nothing changed. I ended up calling my mom because I felt so alone. I told her what happened and that I didn't think it was okay that he left me like that when I was clearly sick and needed help. Her response? Well, you have to understand that he was sad. You're being unempathetic. When I tried to explain that I also felt bad and that it's not unreasonable to expect support when you're sick, she doubled down. Suddenly, I was the one being unreasonable for not prioritizing his emotions over my basic needs. It felt like she was telling me that my feelings didn't matter as much, that he had every right to disappear when he was upset, but I didn't have the right to say, "This isn't okay." It felt like I was being abandoned by one person and dismissed by another. Doesn't my mom think I deserve a warm meal when I'm too sick to get out of bed? I wasn't asking for anything huge. I didn't need him to fix everything or pull off some grand gesture. I just needed a little care, a meal, someone to sit next to me, "Hey, are you okay?" That's it. He still could have taken time for himself. He just could have done it in the same space, home, where I was visibly unwell. To me, that's part of what being in a relationship means. You show up when the other person is vulnerable. You don't just disappear. You don't walk away from someone who physically can't care for themselves. That's not love. That's not partnership. And if someone can't do the basics, can't show up in those moments, I honestly don't know how I'm supposed to feel safe building a life with them. We've been together for so long, since we were kids, really, and I never had a clear idea of what's normal in a relationship. My dad acted in a similar way, emotionally distant and disengaged, so maybe I just thought this was how it worked. But now I'm starting to ask, is it? Comment 1. I laughed aloud at, "You have to understand that he was sad." That has got to be the new Iranian yogurt. What a ludicrously low bar of acceptable behavior she expects from men as ostensible partners. What is even the point of being a couple? I'm with you on this. 12 years is already too long to spend with Dad Part 2. Time to meet potential partners you didn't choose at 15. Comment 2. Well, if your dad acted in a similar way, that's why your mom is telling you your partner's feelings are more important than yours, because that's the relationship she had with your dad. You've been with this guy since you were 15, so he's basically all you've ever known in terms of a relationship. If this is how he treats you on a regular, or even semi-regular, you need to re-examine your relationship as a whole. Comment 3. Ask yourself what he would do if you chose to abandon him when he was sick. If doing so didn't lead to the end of the relationship, you would never hear the end of it. Your mother is not in a position to see this clearly because she's accepted neglect and disregard from your father. I suspect this isn't the first time he has failed to support you when you needed it. You have to decide if this relationship is serving your needs. Story 3. I am 21. I am in a situation where I have to inform a friend, F18, that she is no longer invited to a group trip because of her religious views. How can I go about this? So I, 21M, have been helping plan a group trip to a theme park with some coworkers. We've been organizing it for a couple of months now. The trip was originally put together by one of my coworkers, Craig, 18M, who wanted to have a fun, memorable send-off for a few of us before we all head off to college this summer. He's keeping it to a smaller group, just people he's close with at work. Most of the attendees had already been settled, but recently, Craig added someone new to the list, Dolly, 18F. While we were finalizing some of the plans tonight, another coworker who's attending, Abigail, 19F, found out for the first time that Dolly was invited. As soon as she heard, Abigail said she wouldn't be going anymore. It turns out that, although Craig didn't know this when he invited her, Dolly had made some homophobic and transphobic comments while hanging out with Abigail outside of work. Dolly didn't know that Abigail is bisexual, and understandably, Abigail doesn't feel comfortable spending a full day with someone who's expressed those views. Now, I can't say I was totally shocked. Dolly is pretty openly conservative and religious, and we live in a fairly conservative religious area. A lot of her beliefs come from that background. Still, Craig wasn't aware of what she'd said, and it clearly changes things. We really want Abigail to come on this trip. She's part of the core group that the whole thing was planned around, and nobody wants anyone to feel unwelcome or uncomfortable. So we agreed that the best move would be to uninvite Dolly. I volunteered to talk to her since I tend to have the best people skills out of the group, and Craig doesn't want to risk making things awkward between them. That said, I'm also a little concerned about how to approach this delicately. I work with Dolly, and I'm in a leadership role. Sometimes I have to direct her, and I don't want to create tension or affect how we work together. I could just be straightforward and tell her that some of her views have made others uncomfortable, and that for the sake of group harmony, we think it's best if she doesn't come. But I know this will likely be met with defensiveness, and I'd rather avoid a bigger conflict if possible. Is there a gentler or more diplomatic way to handle this? Or should I just be honest and brace for whatever happens? Comment 1. Craig invited her, so he should be the one to uninvite her, no matter how uncomfortable it is for him. You shouldn't get involved when she reports to you at work. Talk to Craig again and tell him he needs to do it. Comment 2. Dude, she's a direct report? Toss this one back to Craig and let him do it. Comment 3. Be very, very careful. If you're her direct supervisor/manager, this can very easily be seen as bullying/retaliation by a superior in the workplace. This will look bad just because not everyone was invited, but to also uninvited someone, this could be a lawsuit in the making. If I were you, I'd uninvite myself. Unless you don't really care about the job. Comment 4. Craig is leaving, but he's worried about being awkward around Dolly. So he asks the guy who isn't leaving to break the bad news, and OP can be awkward around Dolly for the next 40 years. Let Craig or one of the college kids who are leaving soon after do it. They won't have to interact with Dolly after the trip, and OP will. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.